Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to focus in on an energy that we're experiencing in early March 2022, where we have both Venus and Mars conjunct in Capricorn, making a conjunction to Pluto at 27 degrees of Capricorn. This energy is significant because we have Venus and Mars traveling together through Capricorn into Aquarius, and they are both interacting with Pluto in what we experience as transformative energies that want to evolve us, to move us forward, but there is work involved. And during this particular energy, we're really looking at our own fears, what we have held back, where we have not felt the energy of strength in the Venus or Mars archetypes. And more specifically, this can apply to partnerships, relationships, divine masculine and divine feminine energies. And as both Venus and Mars interact with Pluto, there is a deeper process underway, and I thought it would be beneficial to discuss these energies because if you are experiencing or having any relationship fears, any fears around being close to someone, connecting, opening up, if you're having any fears come up around previous relationship habits, things that you haven't been able to move past, things that have felt very intense or big for you, you are right on time because these are the energies of transformation that we're moving through that are often quite messy, emotional, intense. There are parts of ourselves that we're seeing in the mirror, that we're facing, that we're looking at, perhaps taking a good hard look at. And part of that experience is understanding the fears, what has been below the surface, what has been in your psyche or in your subconscious or unconscious that is coming up for you to really see, but to do so in a way that involves reprogramming, that involves mastery, that involves taking a stand, standing in your power, in your authority, in what is true for you now, and essentially evolving this energy so that you can create new relationship experiences that are better for who you are now, the frequency that you're at, and what you want to experience on the planet. So we're essentially talking about reprogramming relationship energies because Venus and Mars are traveling together and they are the relational energies in a chart. Now, every astrological sign and every astrological planet has relationship qualities, different ways that you connect and relate to energies outside of yourself. And that could be one of the broad definitions here, that when we talk about relationships, we're often thinking about that in terms of other people. But you are in relationship with everything in your environment, everything in your life. You are in relationship with the voids and the openness in your life. You are in relationship with your belief systems, with the energies that you're using actively in your world and in your life, as well as the energies that are operating in your unconscious self. So we have relationships with everything, every type of energy. But we're going to focus on these relationships that involve other people and how you may be understanding and seeing some of your own unconscious habits and patterns at this time, because Venus and Mars traveling together brings a focal point of energy to their dynamic. They are in Capricorn, which is about taking a good hard look at your life circumstances, understanding what you have chosen or selected. How has that played out for you? How has that unfolded for you? Looking at not only our choices, but the consequences. And that doesn't have to be a negative word. It's not like consequences are only about things coming back around that are painful or damaging. It's essentially how the energy has played out for you, how the choices you've made have had maybe long-term effects. And that is also the domain of Capricorn, where things take time and they have a lasting effect. Now, the other energy that's strong here is, of course, Pluto in Capricorn, which is about our evolution and permanent changes, permanent endings, things that are no longer in alignment with your needs, your wants, your heart, where you're going, what you want next. Pluto evolves us. It says that something has to end because it no longer serves you. It's no longer connected to your empowerment, to who you are at this time. And in Capricorn, it certainly relates to how you show up in the world, the experiences you've had that have created your life and your life circumstances, how you show up in your responsibilities and your commitments, how you essentially are taking responsibility for all areas of your life, all energies in your life, because Capricorn energy is the third and final earth sign about our physical reality, about what has unfolded and transpired, what you're seeing now from this particular vantage point, especially when you look back over your life, as well as looking forward to what you want to move towards next. Now, Pluto doesn't allow us to get away with things, quote unquote. Pluto reminds us of our power, what we can create, what we're here to move forward and evolve, both as individuals and in a collective manner. So this Pluto in Capricorn is working with you to really get you to see something in a mature, responsible manner, but also to show you that you can change it up. If there are any habits you've had, especially in regards to relationships, any habits that have been detrimental, that have been limiting, that have been based on fears. These could also be any habits or patterns that are connected to an unhealed inner child, a part of your early life experiences where you didn't receive what you needed. You weren't validated. You weren't seen. You weren't acknowledged. Perhaps there's energies here that you're meeting or coming into contact with for the first time, because this Capricorn energy is the adult of the zodiac. There's a mature energy here where now you can address those inner child wounds. You can perhaps see where you came from. You can see the role that your parents played in your relationship dynamics, or what you learned through relationships. Oftentimes with parents, we're observing their dynamic. We're learning from them, whatever that might be, which can be a full spectrum of energies, from very healthy, loving, and kind to the other end of the spectrum where you're noticing it was two unhealed individuals in a very unhealthy relationship dynamic. And of course, anywhere on that spectrum is where our inner child can show up, and our inner child has needs. So now that you're seeing your parents as adults, as individuals with their own energy fields, their own flaws, their own strengths, you could notice where you didn't receive or get something that you needed, but they weren't aware of it perhaps. Perhaps you're working out something with a parent. There's something you're moving through around understanding more of who they are, what they're about, what their experiences have been. And of course, I would refer you to look at their natal astrology chart if you have access to any of their birth details and specifics, because understanding someone through their natal chart helps you know who they really are. You can have greater compassion, greater objectivity, greater awareness of who they are as a soul, what they have embarked upon, how their life has been hard or challenging, what they grew up with, what they were carrying, the parts of their own experiences that you weren't aware of, especially as a child. So this Capricorn energy does access the inner adult within all of us, regardless of our age, but it also helps us understand our own experiences with parents, authorities, mentors, those we looked up to, those we looked to for guidance, advice, experience, knowingness to show us how to navigate this world. And maybe you feel like those people failed you. There was something that you didn't receive, you didn't get, something that your inner child was striving to experience or feel or dying to receive. It was like this part of us that can feel like we're so dependent on others for what we need, but in certain energy experiences, those needs aren't known, meaning your parent may not have known you energetically. They didn't know perhaps that you were very empathetic or highly sensitive. Maybe they didn't know how intuitive you were or what you could pick up on in an environment. So these can be part of the relationship dynamics that we work through, especially with this focus on Capricorn. But it also is, again, calling forth your own mature adult self, where you take responsibility for your own energy and you're able to detach and not take it as personally. And that is part of this shift that we're moving through, where you could see that not only did your parents or whomever raised you did the best they could considering their circumstances, but also considering their level of consciousness. And now there is more consciousness on the planet. There are more parents who are raising their children with these higher energies, with an understanding of who they are through their astrology chart or through their energetics. And that's part of the evolution here that we're moving through, is that we're advancing what it means to understand each other. We're moving forward in our consciousness around what it means to understand how someone's needs are different than our own, whether that is a parent, a child, a sibling. It's understanding how everyone is their own unique energy field, regardless of age, but that we can have an awareness of what they're capable of and what they're not capable of. So we have this maturity energy coming in that's allowing us to detach, to understand maybe some of the dynamics that were in play, and more importantly, how you can take responsibility for your needs right now. And that is one of the hallmarks of Capricorn, is the ability to take responsibility for who you are, what you need, what you want, and allow that to be enough. You're not looking for others to supply it or to give it to you. There is the ability here to stand on your own 2 feet with strength and confidence while doing your work, while honoring who you are, what your needs are, while understanding a deeper connection to your inner child, as well as the other parts of our energies that we interact with as well, such as our shadow self, such as the parts of us that are triggered, such as the parts of us that are working through perhaps different parts of our previous life experiences, whether that was trauma, abuse, something that had a lasting effect on your energy, on your consciousness. Perhaps a significant relationship really formed your understanding of relationships, and maybe that relationship wasn't so healthy. So you're reprogramming that, rewiring that. And a lot of this work is in private, or it's something that we do with a trusted professional or with another that we can confide in. And we do it internally. And part of what I'm feeling around this reprogramming is that there's something where you're ready for it to be proven to you, where it's like, you've done all this work, you've made all these changes, you've done X, Y, and Z. Now show me. Show me the shifts. Show me what has changed. And that is what we're moving into. But first, this Venus and Mars, as they interact with Pluto, they're going through a Pluto car wash. And that car wash is intense. It can be emotionally and energetically intense, but I actually feel that this particular transit is strengthening. It's powering up something that you've already been working on and working through, that's already been in your conscious awareness. And that's because we previously had Mercury in Capricorn working with this Pluto through retrograde, and we discussed that. That energy began in late December and it completed in February 2022. We also have had Venus in Capricorn retrograding across Pluto 2 times previously, where she began her retrograde December 19th, 2021, and was conjunct Pluto for a significant amount of time. And now here in early March, this Venus is making her 3rd and final pass with Pluto. So she's already been through some intense fears. And I'm going to talk about these fears because I think it's important to name them and to know that it's energies that multiple people are experiencing right now. And it's specifically about perhaps not feeling like you're going to connect with someone in this lifetime. It could be a sense of, do I have to keep doing this journey alone? Is there a match for me? It can bring up your fears around feeling loved and seen by another, feeling acknowledged, feeling like they truly can see who you are and what you've been through. There can be fears around similar relationship patterns continuing, where after what you've been through in relationships, and by the way, this certainly applies if you're in a relationship right now, if you're in a marriage or a long-term partnership. These are energies that are working with you, and it is requiring perhaps some deeper conversations or understandings of what is happening for each individual, because what these energies are bringing up are the parts of our hearts that have been repressed, caged, shut down, limited, burdened, and negatively impacted by previous relationship connections. And it's important to note that you very well could be the person who has played a similar role in relationship dynamics. We all have our responsibilities in these connections. We all show up with our full energy, and yet there's things that happen in these connections that are always meant to grow us. We're meant to learn from them. We're meant to understand, how did I show up in this connection? What did I contribute? What did I do? And if you take a good hard look at it, you might notice your own patterns, your own themes around these connections that could have originated from when you were very young, especially when you were a teenager or whenever you embarked upon your first relationship experiences, your first dating experiences, or your first experiences of being in a relationship with someone. Those are very formative. And as we move on and mature, we can forget what some of those experiences were, yet we can also be perpetuating those same energies regardless of our age or our level of consciousness. So this particular energy is that big, where it's asking you to take a good hard look at your relationship experiences across this full lifetime and to look at your role, your part, and how did you show up? And perhaps, what were your fears? How did your fears show up? And did they show up in a way that allowed you to have good conversations and openness with someone where you were able to vulnerably talk about your fears? Or did you do something that shut down the connection so that you didn't have to be vulnerable? You didn't have to have those honest conversations. This can be very normal at certain levels of consciousness, where before you're ready to have those kinds of very open adult conversations, there's other things that happen. This is where people will betray someone, where they will go into a third party situation or cheat on them, because that's a lot easier than having an honest conversation about your needs or what you're feeling. There can be energies here around sabotage. There can be energies here where you're afraid that someone's going to break up with you, so then you break up with them first. There can be energies here where you don't want to be rejected, so you have certain shields or certain things that you put up in order to not experience that rejection or not experience that energy. And of course, there's so many other ways these energies can show up. So this is where it's important to look at your own patterns, to take a good hard look at your own relationship patterns, which we all have, which every person on the planet has relationship patterns. And it's part of our evolving consciousness to understand what they are. And more importantly, to know that there are solutions. There are ways through them, and to shift them and to reprogram them. It doesn't have to stay this way. It doesn't have to be the same thing that you experience over and over again. But this is where you step into your power. This is where you own it. And you look at what you have been through, but with eyes of compassion, where you can see, okay, that's what I knew at that time, or I didn't have tools to have certain conversations. I didn't know how to approach these topics. I didn't know how to stand up for my needs or to say what is going on within me. I didn't know how to express what I was fearful of. and so on and so on. Like you can look back and just realistically assess the fact that you didn't have what you needed perhaps at that time, but now at this level of consciousness, you can shift it. And you can really look at what you need in order to create those kinds of relationships and connections that are healthier, that are more conscious, that are more open, that are safe, that allow you to be all of who you are. And that is what is loved and accepted, not only by yourself, but by that other person. And this can certainly apply to relationships with anybody in your life, such as siblings, good friends, parents, but more specifically, because we're looking at Venus and Mars, which are the feminine and masculine energies, this is really about getting to the heart of how you show up in partnerships, how your energy contributes to that relationship dynamic and what it creates. And you might notice that you have some toxic traits that set in around that 3rd month mark, for example, where your fears come up, where something gets triggered, where things are getting further down the path in terms of knowing someone and you're afraid of being rejected or you're afraid of something falling apart. So this is again where you have to be very honest with yourself about what you've been through and to take responsibility for those habits and patterns, because nobody else can do that but you. This is your power. This is you creating your life. This is you creating your relationships. And that's your responsibility. And there's many ways that we can try to sugarcoat it. And there's ways that we can try to blame. Again, this would be something to look at. Are you saying it's always someone else's fault? Are you deflecting? What are the patterns here? Because you are creating your life, and this is where there are opportunities to create something new and different that evolves you, that expands you, that takes you into a new energetic experience of yourself, of relationships, of what you can experience on this planet. But because Pluto is involved, there's something that is being rewired, reprogrammed, and it could feel a little brutal because Pluto is no holds barred. Rather, Pluto is about the truth of your energy, the truth of your shadow, the truth of your underworld, the truth of your fears. And that's why the energy starts off to be rather intense or emotional, because these are the parts of ourselves that we don't always want to look at or see. And we can have a sense of, wow, I really messed that up. Or wow, that was a good person in my life and I did them wrong. Or you could feel like you've been on the receiving end of that, which could create this victim consciousness or a scarcity consciousness or a feeling of there's no one who's going to know me or understand me or love me. It can create these very deep soul fears that we probably have experienced through previous lifetimes. So that's another thing that comes up here when we have Pluto involved, is that it can highlight your soul experiences across multiple lifetimes. And those can be the benchmarks of your fears, where you've had previous lifetimes where your partner died or abandoned you, or you were left to carry the burden of the family. Or perhaps you're the one who left. You're the one who didn't want to stay in the village, or you didn't want to be held back or restricted in some manner. So there's so many levels to this, of course, but this can help you go into the themes that have persisted across multiple lifetimes and what you're looking at here around your own energies of separation, abandonment, betrayal, rejection, feeling all alone in the world, not feeling lovable, not believing that there's a match for you, not believing that there is a healthy partnership that you can experience. So getting into these fears is essentially the only way through. Otherwise, the energy can persist and can stay on a loop. So this is where we're really looking at, what do I need to change? What do I want to change within my own relationship dynamics that in fact reflect more of my own internal relationship with myself. And not only can this show you where you maybe have abandoned yourself, rejected yourself, betrayed yourself, feel separated from parts of yourself, but this energy is also tied to your relationship with God, Source, Spirit, the universe. And if you feel betrayed by the universe, separated, rejected, etc., all of this connects. All of this comes together. So that's why it's a bit like pulling on a thread, pulling on a string, and the more you yank on it, the more it shows you everything that's connected to that one string. So what we have here is a process that we've already been experiencing. Again, we started this intensely in December 2021, but you maybe have already felt this energy rising up in you, revealing itself to you, showing you these messages, or bringing your attention to certain patterns and habits for a while now. And as Venus and Mars go through the Pluto car wash, there is energy here that can be intensified. It can feel like it's really being purged, it's being cleansed. And on the other side, there is a sense of higher responsibility to what you're going to create next. So this is a bit like, what are you really truly shifting and changing? And all you have to do is start with that in yourself. Look at what energies within your personal relationship to your own feminine and masculine self are you shifting, evolving, and growing. You're doing it differently. You're accepting more of yourself. You're honoring who you are. You're really getting clear on your needs, what you need, and that is Venus, what you need to feel loved, how you love yourself, understanding your own love languages, for example, and then giving that to yourself and being able to enforce and strengthen that energy within yourself so that it is then more of an active, alive part of you. So it's already in your energy field. It's already a part of what you're moving through and experiencing. And you're not waiting on someone else to do that for you. You're not expecting another to fill in the holes of the Swiss cheese. You're aware of your own power, your own mastery, and that's the energy you're co-creating within yourself, which is, of course, then what attracts and brings in others of that same frequency and vibration. Now, the timeline on this can be different for all of us. This could be energies that you've already been working with, you're already aware of, and you've already been through a lot of intense reprogramming and healing work, in which case Venus and Mars conjunct Pluto, which is exact March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, depending on your location on the planet. These are energies that you maybe are going to feel as liberating you, because the other side of a Pluto transit is the Phoenix rising, and it rises up with new power and strength, as well as a lightening of the load, what you have ended in yourself, what you've evolved past, where you've made commitments to do things differently, where you've made commitments to show up differently. And that is what evolves us. That's where we're learning and growing and how we're doing things differently. And sometimes the universe doesn't play around with that. The universe makes it really clear what needs to shift and evolve. And sometimes that can be painful. That's also Pluto. And I know that you've been through your own experiences of pain and heartache and loss. And that's certainly been a big part of this journey for many of us in this lifetime. But the Pluto energy wants you to be aware of the choices you can make next, where sometimes what is removed or taken away reveals how you really feel, opens up the heart, really shows you what matters, really shows you what you want. And it's through that loss that you're able to make a higher commitment to yourself of what you're willing to change or do differently next. Because in the universe, there are ways that we experience loss, especially in the physical world. But at a universal level, there's always something else that can come forward and come in. There's unending possibilities. There's unlimited potentials. And so what we are also tapping into is that as you move up to higher levels of consciousness and higher levels of energy within yourself, there's always something else that comes forward to meet you. There's always something else that will match, even when you can't see it next. And I think that's also been a difficult part of this journey, is that when you've been doing so much work and some of the stuff, again, it's not new to you. You're very aware of it. And now you're like, okay, when is this connection going to show up? When is this individual going to come through? And if you're very psychic or intuitive and you're really tapped into energies, that's what you want. You kind of don't just want the intuitive connection with someone where the telepathy is cool or the multidimensional experiences are really awesome, but we live in a physical world. So where's the physical experience of this energy? At some point, you could even feel like those connections, those multidimensional connections, feel toxic. They don't feel like they're really supporting you. They feel like they're more of a downer if they create more expectations and then nothing happens. So I feel like what so many people are ready for are these new real world connections, experiences in person where you're showing up as a new version of yourself, a more healed, a healthier version of yourself, which can also feel more vulnerable, because part of being in your authenticity and knowing yourself is that you're no longer playing games with yourself. You're no longer settling for certain behaviors or things that you would have allowed to happen, or you just would have thought that's fine. Now there's higher standards. There's things that are being required of each of us that can feel a little nerve-wracking or scary because we haven't been here before. And it can feel like Pluto strips away all those safety devices in a sense. It removes the things that we used to use to maybe feel more protected or more shielded. But part of a Pluto experience is that you're powering up internally and you know that no matter what, you're going to be okay. No matter what, you're going to be better than okay. Even if you have to take a risk, even if there's something that you're feeling or sensing that makes you nervous, creates anxiety, that's just part of the human experience at times. So how do you take care of that in yourself? Because that is your responsibility, is to take care of your energy when you feel anxious, when you feel nervous. What do you need to do to move the energy in a healthy way to feel grounded and come back to your sense of self, your confidence, your clarity? What are you doing to actively manage your energy now? Because that is another signature of Capricorn, where now you have mastery. Now there's things you've learned. You have tools, you have skills, you have ways of working with this energy. So how are you applying it? How are you doing so in a way that's healthy and strengthening for you? And how are you allowing this to be something that empowers you and reminds you that you'll always be okay no matter what happens? Because there's always a level of uncertainty with other people, with connections, with people in your life. I mean, you can apply this to long-term friendships and siblings and people that you interact with, that, their world is changing and evolving too. There's things that they're moving through that you don't always know about. So I feel like what we're stepping into here are newer, truer connections across all relationships that are able to meet in that same space. And also you're going to see which relationships are not, where there are people that you can only have certain kinds of conversations with. You can only talk about certain things. You can't go deeper. You can't go further into it. And in fact, you could even sense, I can't open up too much with them, or I actually don't trust them with these more vulnerable parts of myself. So that is very wise, and that is very discerning. And that's also a part of this mastery energy where you're clear You're more discerning on what you do share, how you do open up, what parts of your life you allow them access to, what parts of your inner world you allow someone access to. That's all part of this discernment. And there's also the energies here of knowing that part of our soul experience is to evolve these connections. Now, we also have Pluto, Venus, and Mars in Capricorn trining that north node in Taurus, as well as sextiling the south node in Scorpio. And I have done previous shows for you on these themes, but essentially, this is energy that's opening new pathways in the heart. The heart chakra is expanding and growing, and that is especially true for those who want it, who are on that path, who are open to that. And likewise, you're going to feel it. You're going to sense it in yourself or sense it in another. You're also going to sense who is not there, who is not opening at the heart level, who doesn't have that capacity or that space, who doesn't have that desire or willingness. So this is also where you're using your discernment and trusting yourself, trusting what you're sensing, feeling, trusting what you're seeing in others, not idealizing them, not expecting more from them than they're capable of, being very aware of how they show up in their life and how that matches for you. So this is a very big energy at this time, especially the end of February into the beginning of March, as these energies are bringing relationships to the forefront and specifically the truth about relationships. We could say it's in all areas of your life, but it's really true and strong in the Capricorn parts of your chart. And so what you're wanting to be aware of course, your own energy first, how you've evolved and changed, how you perhaps have different relationship needs now. There's different things you want. There's different things you want to co-create or experience. There's parts of your energy that are opening, flourishing, growing, and that's what you want to continue. So you may have some very clear understandings of people who are not on that same page, who don't match up there. And that simply means that you have awareness around the energy that doesn't connect. But this is also a time to be very honest with yourself around your own relationship habits and patterns. Anything that you have done or created or participated in relationships that hasn't been healthy for you, that hasn't led to the outcomes or the developments that you want, now is the time to be very honest with yourself and to look at what work might be needed around that, especially if it relates to anything from childhood, from your parents, from inner child work, anything that perhaps has been passed down to you through cultures, through traditions, through things in even your family lineage. Perhaps there's answers there. It could even be the roles that certain energies have played in your family. For example, the roles of feminine energies, the roles of masculine energy. Are those true for you now? Are those still real? Are those the energies that you're wanting to perpetuate in your own life, etc.? This could also be where you understand more of your fears from that soul perspective of what you've been through for multiple lifetimes. If you've been abandoned across multiple lifetimes, rejected, betrayed, someone was taken away from you, you experienced a lot of loss, that's very real at an emotional level. And keep in mind, this isn't necessarily logic that we're dealing with. We're dealing with things that run through us, the energetics of it, the emotions of it, that we don't always mentally understand, but we feel it and we sense it. That's the work of Pluto. Pluto goes deeper into what's underneath, and that's where these fears could originate from. And so you would want to do some work around these fears, and that could be something that you need to do with a therapist or a healer. Maybe there's body work involved, but there's also something here where energetically you can transmute it through the violet flame. You can transmute it through heart chakra work or any chakra that is calling to you. There could be things here that you're understanding for the first time ever in your soul's journey. And that's a really big, exciting breakthrough. That's a huge advancement in your own consciousness. And when you get to the heart of something, it can significantly shift you and change you. And again, what I'm feeling around this energy is that it's essentially leveling us up to higher experiences of love, true love, real love, big giant love that of course originates within ourselves, our own capacity to hold that frequency, to hold that energy field so that we can connect with others who also hold that. But this is where you could feel your own fears come up around, what if it doesn't happen? What if I'm imagining this? What if the joke's on me? What if there's no one who meets me in this space? I mean, these fears can be very big and they can seem very real. But what our assignment is to essentially talk back to those fears, to tell those fears that's no longer my experience. That's no longer my reality. I'm changing this up. I'm doing it differently. I'm shifting the energy within myself. I'm taking responsibility for all of my own conscious and unconscious relationship dynamics. I'm aware that now I am more loved, I am safe, I am whole, and I am able to experience this energy at a whole new level now because of what you've been through, because of what you've experienced. You can use all of that as fuel. You can transmute all of that into something beautiful and something new that you haven't experienced yet, either in this lifetime or in your soul's experiences. It does feel that powerful and supportive. I also feel there could be an ease with this because it's positively connecting with that North Node in Taurus. Something can click and lock in and be solidified, where you just have a new sense of strength and confidence. You have a new sense of, this is absolutely what I require, nothing less, nothing else, no more karmic loops, no more going back to things that weren't good for me, that weren't healthy, because you shifted the energy in yourself. And this is the week where those themes are even bigger. So depending where you're at with this and depending on what feels good for you, what feels correct for you, this could be a beautifully supportive time for this deep reprogramming. And there's something here again where the universe is saying our assignment is to look at how we partner. What does partnership mean? What does it look like? What does a healthy partnership mean to you? What does a safe, nurturing, loving partnership mean to you? Where the energies are equal in giving and receiving, where there is space for every person to be an individual, because a relationship is composed of two individuals. So you can't just give up who you are as a person and sacrifice that for the relationship. It's really having strength in, this is who I am, this is how I share, interact, and connect, and allowing there to still be space and room for the truth of who you are. So essentially, we have a serious assignment in front of us, and this could be something, again, you're already aware of, you've been working on it, or there could be something that comes up that shows you what you need to see, that shows you something that Pluto is ready to reveal to you. And it's something that we're meant to understand we have choices around it, and that there is a new level of empowerment, which leads to new manifestations as well. So you might feel ready to surrender or offer something to Pluto, where you're like, I'm done with this. Please take this away from me. Please remove this from my energy, from my subconscious, from my fear body. Please allow this to be removed from me graciously and peacefully, because I'm ready for that next level, the next experiences, the next frequency that I'm also ready to embody within myself. Now, with Mars here, there is more strength and confidence to see things through and to get it done, and to have the energy for this level of transformation. So overall, I feel like this can be very positive. I feel like this can be rewarding and perhaps even go faster than you thought, where maybe it isn't like years and years of work. Instead, there's things that are just clicking and coming together. You're integrating it and you're feeling it. and it lands. It's there. So know that this is where we can accelerate through certain parts of our energies. We can continually evolve and learn from them, and we can be aware of how the universe is always working with us to co-create that next level of experiences. So it's certainly a big time, but I hope this has provided you with some heads up and insights into what may be coming up for you this week, what we're meant to understand and look at, and how we can make the best of these energies as they arise. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back here every Wednesday and Monday for a new podcast episode. And you can also check out more on my YouTube channel, where I release videos for you there regularly as well. You can also find out more about me over at mollymccord.online. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back here very soon for more discussion on the astrological energies of our times. In the meantime, I wish you a loving and safe journey with yourself and hope that you are feeling inspired and empowered to elevate to that next level of your own energy field. Thank you so much, and I'll see you back here soon.